all these are like
Yes, can you tell me if I am audible now
Now you
properly?
are audible, sir. It's quite clear, sir. Now.
Okay. So I'm sharing you with the link for the Miro whiteboard.
Okay, sir.
Kindly log into that. You can take your time. I will start the session. You advantage of this new whiteboard system is you can also start putting your own views there, and it can become just like as if you are inside the classroom. So that when we in the design thinking FDP, I mean in the industry, when your students are going and conducting the exercises with their superiors there or the project managers there, what happens is post-it notes are placed in different frameworks, whether it is empathy map, whether it is a user journey map, and so on and so forth. Different team members come and they give their opinion. Then the same thing is carried out with the user, whether the user's needs and requirements are met by the current offering, and what is the gap in the market. All these things, different people will come, they will do survey, they will bring their insight input and put it in post-it. But when you are doing it remotely, suppose your student is in Gujarat, and he wants to have a collaboration with a company in Chennai, and it is not feasible for various constraints to go to Chennai, then these kind of digital whiteboards will help them to get the same post-it like effect, but digitally. So that is why I am insisting that please try and log into the Miro whiteboard. So without further ado, I am sharing my desktop now. Yes, can you see the whiteboard? Hello, can somebody tell me if the whiteboard is visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, okay, okay. So this is when these kind of remote FDP design thinking workshops need to be conducted, then it is important to get all the participants in the same stage. I would like to give credit to Dr. Bihola sir for giving us this interesting exercise which can be drawn in the mic with the mouse, and even if you have an iPad or anything, you can draw these kind of exercises. So you, when you are doing the workshop remotely, then having your participants to draw on the Miro whiteboard will also show how different people across cities, even then they have similar mindset because of culture. So this is a great ice breaking exercise, and I give my thanks to Biola sir for bringing this up. So you can put an entire drawing inside the whiteboard. When you do that, it opens up the common ground for different collaborators to see, okay, we also are liable to or possibly going to be caught up in our existing biases. That is why design thinking is important. That is why we need to have a keen observation. As Apte sir said, it is more about being receptive, being listening. So this was the ice breaking session. One of the ways is to make them draw a picture of this. The other way is to make them draw an animal, and then there are different ways you can make people draw. Whatever they draw, it is important that we give acknowledgements to them. It is not about artisticness, it is about the willingness to sketch, because a lot of things in design thinking come from not just text but from sketching. So how many people have actually gone and opened their own Miro account? Can you just let me know in the chat box? I would like to know, then we can also start having them put some of their own inputs eventually. So who has opened here? I am seeing DYP1 is saying yes. Anybody else? Great, great. Shankar Ramesh Kumar sir has also opened. Good, good. Okay, okay. So you can in this phase you can start drawing a caricature, and I want to see whether you are able to draw it with your mouse. It's okay if it is not very beautiful or something. It's not the point. The point is to be coming out of our comfort zone and to sketch. So you can sketch a cat, a dog, something. I would like to see that. Or you can even, if you are just, if you are on the same page. So see this table of contents like frame comes from here. If you are new to Miro, whenever you click this part, this lower part, you will be able to open the table of contents, this list. Then you click on ice breaking, it will come here. This is like a pointer to this whiteboard. This is a free flowing whiteboard. So there is no correct thing. You decide the flow of presentation. So in this place, you can start, with your mouse, you can start the drawing. You have to select this draw tool, pen tool, select this, and then you will be able to draw anything. Okay. Now, in the interest of time, I will go to the next topic, customer development. That is, you have to close the sketch pen view before you go to the next frame. So when you go to the next frame, I have made this kind of a iterative process. Why we need the importance of empathy and why customer is at the center instead of what happens in core technology companies. It is always about the technology being at the center, and then the customer's focus gets diluted. So in order to not fall into the trap of building something that nobody wants, as sir had earlier pointed out, or at least knowing what other people are wanting instead of them taking what we want them to take, that is the whole point. So this is another way to visualize it. So you have to start with your customer. You have to often take them, you have to take whatever semi-finished goods or semi-finished prototypes you have, take the view of the customer, see how they behave. Then again you have to come back to the drawing board and see whether things are going as per your plan. So there is this kind of, so when we say this common question whether the chicken came or the egg, in the context of our design thinking based product flow, it is more like you do everything together. You do something partial, take it to the customer, then come back, and then you again work on the product or the service. It cannot be that you will wait for the most perfect version of your offering and then only you will go, because by then too much investment and too much the cost of reworking after you have finished the whole thing will be too much. So you have to keep going, starting from the customer, then you decide what you decide for your first level of the product, then you go back to the customer, then you again create a new iteration of the product. And that is this is the major tenant that you have to keep in mind, and the feedback is the thing that drives everything forward. And the goal is to have a product market fit. You should have a product market fit in uh, this towards the as the life cycle progresses. What you are offering, even if it is more expensive than your customers, there should be some thousand, 10,000, 20,000 repeat users who will keep coming back to you. Okay. So even if there are 30,000, 60,000, 100,000 rupee bicycles in the market, 1 lakh rupee bikes in the market, there are still people who want a Java bicycle, even if it is 2.5 times costlier, even if it is on-road price is 2.5 lakhs. So there is a kind of ethos, there is a kind of brand loyalty that Java had cultivated at one point, and there is a kind of performance superiority. Even if it is more fuel inefficient, there is still a niche market for even those kind of bicycles. Similarly, if you see, it's not always about cost cutting only. So if you see in the Apple ecosystem, most of the things that Apple is selling, you will find a cheaper substitute, Android cheaper substitute. But even then there is a craze for it, and there is a continuous willingness to keep going for that premium offering only because of the way they have taken users inputs. People think that Steve Jobs never did any user research. Actually, in Silicon Valley, that is now discovered not to be the case. Steve Jobs' ways of doing the user research were very secretive, or at least it was not publicized much before the product was out. And even if you see, the latest features are not on iOS. iOS is at least 12 to 18 months behind Android when it comes to features. But what it is leading Android in is to see whether those new features even if fewer ones, when they introduce into their ecosystem, everything should come together. If a Android user has some message in his Android phone, there is a very few apps that not many people know of, which will allow them to see those messages inside the Windows computer. But in the iOS ecosystem, you don't need to bother. Everything is thought of by the designers. You have handoff and continuity like features, which will ensure that even if the message is on your mobile device, you don't need to open your phone, it will show up in your MacBook. So that is what I mean by an ecosystem effect. And this is the kind of product market fit. Continuously putting user at the center gives you an advantage. Even if you are more expensive, there will still be a there will still be a loyal following, a fan following for your offering. So this is another way to visualize the product market fit. These are some of the advantages of having a product market fit. Why the importance of design thinking, and this is called as a moat. You see this around the castle. This is the moat. Now this kind of moat, whenever the moat is there, then only a venture capitalist or an angel investor is going to invest his money, because the threat of competition is very high nowadays. So if the presence of the moat is not brought out in front of the team where you're going to raise your capital from, it is very unlikely you'll be able to get any funding. So this kind of moat in the context of Palace, when it when it is in the context of the offering, then these are the some of the ways in which you can say whether the moat is narrow or wide. For it to be wide, it should have at least 3 of these 5, and these attributes of the competitive advantage can be more than 5, but for the purposes right now, let's just stick to 5. And you see, if there are 3 or more, then it is a wide moat. If it is 2 or less, then it is a narrow moat. The narrower your moat, the more likely you will be facing stiffer competition. Now, what is a network effect? So if you are going to design your product, if you are going to have a user base in mind, then you need to see whether the users of your offering, whether they are all able to speak on the same platform, or at least whether the number of people that are in that community, are they all able to interchange their needs. So in Facebook case, in Twitter case, even in WhatsApp case, there are so many WhatsApp users. And so if I want to have a better interaction with the WhatsApp user, Facebook user, I also need to open a WhatsApp and Facebook account. So the cost for acquiring a new user gets drastically reduced. One of the scary things for any investor is to see a large chunk of the investment going back to Google, Facebook, Amazon in the form of ads. They don't want the startups to keep buying ads only to acquire users. This is where the network effect advantage is very important in the case of software offerings. Now let's see that if there is a network offering, then there is switching cost. This is very close to the network effect, but switching cost can be for physical goods also. So there is a certain switching cost associated with when you are trying to go from a certain level of performance to a different level of performance. Like people who are frequent flyers, they would not suddenly switch to IRCTC even if the cost is low, because they have a certain time bound goal to reach from place A to place B. So that is why even though the airline industry is under so much pressure, there is always a government coming out to bail them out, because the switching cost of air travel right now, there is actually no other mode of transportation other than Zoom. But in Zoom, there is again another risk that the data can be this conversation can be leaked or something, and it might be recorded somewhere else. So that is one of the downsides of Zoom. So when there is a need for confidentiality, then you have to go in person, and then if you want to reach in time, then you have to go via airplane. So this is one of the examples of switching cost for the entire mode of travel I'm speaking. Within airlines, again, there is some ways to ensure the switching cost is going to impact the customer. One of them is the frequent flyer miles. So if you have accumulated so many frequent flyer miles and just a few more miles will give you another free round trip, then the likelihood of the user going to another airline is less. Now, intangible assets. So I am actually bringing the economic modes here, and it is not strictly a design thinking thing, but in design thinking you will see there are so many frameworks that are under the same umbrella. I'm bringing the mode part here so that you know what you are designing for. If you are going to design your product and offering, and if it doesn't even end up in having any of these modes, then the startup in which you are incorporating design thinking will have a hard time raising funding. So I'm also putting this here so that whensoever the attendees of this FDP, when they train their students and when the students are designing their business, then they will keep these modes as kind of a checklist. Okay, bhai, whatever we design, it should have at least few of these ingredients, few of these USPs, few of these unique selling points, propositions. So intangible assets. Now it is the age of value chain optimization. Everything is not made in the country where it is sold. So in some cases it is made, in most cases it's not. So a lot of shoes of Nike are not made in America where it is being sold. So that is one of the things that I'm talking about, is if the production is not the USP, then what will be the USP? The name, the sticker of Nike itself is their strongest USP. And it's the same with Coca-Cola. So in the last decade or before that decade, we used to see several advertisements of Coca-Cola and all these thumbs up and all this, because they know that it is not so difficult to create a bottling plant. It is not so difficult to add the carbon dioxide into the water and add sugar into the water and create a lookalike of their offering. So then why should people keep going back to them? So then they decided, let us brand. And the brand is one of the core aspects of intangible asset. So thanda matlab something something. So then your recall has gone to a certain company's offering. That is the kind of branding that these guys are doing. Now intangible assets give you the freedom to separate yourself from the physical and outsource the physical to an OEM. That is what I said with Nike. But then there is another way to create a intangible asset. So this company called New Balance in New York, their USP is that they are building the shoes in New York, which is a very difficult thing. In order to build a shoe, you have to do several stitches and several different ingredients need to be sourced. So they are sourcing the leather from a farm in the New York State itself, and they are dyeing it in New York State itself, and they are building it in New York State itself. Then why isn't Nike doing it? Why did they have to go to China? Because between the founding of New Balance and Nike, Nike came much before. That time robotics was not that advanced. So New Balance has able to create the shoes in New York because of the advantage of robotics. Their factory is having so much more robots. And that is one of the reason why people go for New Balance shoes, even though the offering is smaller than Nike. And even though New Balance is not able to get the grand stars like Michael Jordan and create a product line of Michael Jordan. So, but then again, by bringing Michael Jordan and removing the word Nike itself, Nike has created a different brand identity now. This Jordan shoe brand identity is more expensive than Nike's own shoes. So you see, it is up to what the customer wants. It's not about whether Nike wants its name to be more famous or New Balance wants its name to be more famous. There is an actual group of Americans who will buy American made shoes even if they are in less design, even if they are not advertised by very big short names. They will still buy because it is made in America. So New Balance is targeting that customer, and Nike is targeting not only just its traditional Nike users, but also users who are very much fond of a certain sports athlete. So they will create an entire shoe line just with the icon of that sports athlete, and the word Nike or the ticker of Nike will be somewhere hidden. It will not be as visible as the athlete's icon. So this is the intangible asset examples. Cost advantage. Now, cost advantage in this economies of scale world, to sustain a cost advantage requires a lot of back integration, It requires a lot of automation, and for a startup to sustain a cost advantage is very challenging, but it is doable in case if the methodology, like for example an investment proposal had come for a kind of lubricant in which there is a very less demand for certain foreign reagents, and you can also use some plants and stuff in India to reduce the cost. But in these cases there needs to be a certification from competent authority. So that is where the startup which I had seen a proposal for is still pending, because getting that authority's approval in India requires quite a bit of patience. So cost advantage we see through economies of scale only. So if you want to get a cost advantage inside the startup, then you will have to plan out with a large manufacturing company, and then you'll have to go by the intangible asset route or something, where you give the manufacturing to an OEM who has the cost advantage, and you do a revenue share of your brand by licensing it to them. Scale and cost advantage. In the scale part, it is more about distribution networks. How wide is the distribution network? The more larger your distribution network, the more the scale, the more the number of users who can come to you. Now going from there, I will connect to our design thinking empathy map. So some of the few questions you need to answer before you start an empathy map is, what is the objective? Okay, in the case of Apple, the macro problem, the macro objective would be to improve the experience of Apple products and services. But that is a very vague, and it's not that concrete. So you need to again dig down which offering you want to improve. So if you want to improve something, then you have to have some basic considerations to reduce the number of things that you would try to improve in one go. So let's look at this model. This is an impact effort matrix. Okay, on this side is effort. Okay, low effort and low effort and yeah. So if something takes high effort and high impact, that is in the right hand quadrant. If something takes low effort and it has a lower impact, it is in this quadrant. In this case for Apple, it is more economical for them to let the Intel based Mac OS offerings continue. But what is it that takes less effort but has a higher impact? So launching iTunes Store. This was something that generated revenue for Apple, uh, in not only in the iPod but also in the computers, in the MacBooks. This is when you start, if your business has two parts. This is called the Gillette model, the razor and the blade model. You sell a razor cheap, but then you get more money from the continuous purchase of the blade. Here the blade becomes a kind of subscription. Similarly, what is the iTunes store? The iTunes store is also a kind of subscription where money keeps coming back again and again and again. This is the sweet revenue model, which is very popular in all software as a services. Continuous charging of money is the reason why they have so much surplus cash. So Apple's valuation into the $1 trillion segment, market cap wise, is because the subscription revenue gradually overtook the product sales revenue. So launching of the iTunes store, and then once the iPad and iPhones were out, then the App Store. So these are some of the low effort but high impact aspects of their business. Similarly, there is a high impact, high effort, which was the introduction of the Apple's own A9 processor. So before that, ARM was not manufacturing custom processors to this degree. Apple said and made them do it, because Apple is the customer of ARM. ARM has to listen to Apple, otherwise a very large order would not be available. So ARM incorporated a lot of hardware changes and gave Apple the opportunity to start re-entering into creating custom processors for themselves. So that is one of the high impact and high effort areas of Apple's offering. They start making their own processors. If the processor is not available with the competition, and the software that runs on the processor is not available with the competition, naturally the resultant of the hardware and software, the competition is not going to be able to match. That is one of the reasons why even till date one of the best skin tone renderings in an image is still with an Apple phone. Now so you start putting your different aspects in the impact matrix. This matrix you can use at the start of the design thinking, at the later stage of the design thinking. So now if you go back to your empathy map and you start, okay, I know that it will take a lot of effort to create a custom processor for my it will take a lot of effort to create custom processor for my phone, but the outcome is that I will have a significant lead and significant advantage for my end users when it comes to the way everything works together. So then I can do that. But once the product line of the Apple phones are steady, how else can we leverage that technology? So this is the map when you compare the feeling and the experience of a MacBook user and a iPhone user. So like I told you earlier, Apple has some of the most highly integrated chains value offerings for their users. Not only do you see the things inside your phone, inside your computer, they were one of the first people to introduce a very reliable way of transferring large files wirelessly between your MacBook and your iPhone. Then everybody else tried and started to bring their own lookalikes and equivalent offerings. But till that, there is very difficult. It's not that easy to transfer large files in GBs from your Windows machine to your Android phone, and that is where this is one more advantage. So then they started to incorporate that. See, how can we give the advantages of the iPhone to the MacBook user? Right now the MacBook is very, this is, I'm talking about the Intel MacBooks. So the Intel MacBooks are very hot in the lab, whereas the iPhones are not that hot. So think and feel. Then you see what do they see? So users are consuming content. Users don't care whether, you know, Intel is enabling them to consume the content, or ARM companies chips are enabling them to consume their content. They are bothered with whether or not their purpose is being met by the device. Now what is the screen on time of a Intel MacBook? It is barely 2 hours. But if you see the screen on time for any Apple device when it is new, it's more than 6 hours, in some cases the whole day, in some cases a day and a half. So that is one of the advantages when it comes for what the users are able to see on their device. And suppose if you are on a flight, this becomes more pronounced because not every flight will give you the opportunity to charge your device. And what do they say and do? So what happens when the device is not really meeting the expectations of the user? They will say about it on social media, na? So a lot of vocal opposition came to how the Intel MacBooks of Apple are not able to meet the user's need. Now, what do they hear? So when a MacBook user is using a MacBook versus a iPhone, then in the MacBook's case, the user is also able to hear the fan noise, and the user's conferencing and audio recording setup will also, the mic will also pick up the fan noise, because very loud fans are usually, the fan noise of Intel based laptops is pretty loud. To reduce the fan noise, Apple has then reduced the cooling, and because of that, if the fans are not able to vent out, then the noise is reduced, but then the thermals are increasing. So then more hot in the lab. So if you it's a trade-off. So Apple decided to make it quieter at the expense of making it warmer in the case of Intel MacBooks. So this actually creates a kind of understanding of where the user of the same company in two different product lines, what they are experiencing. This is something that the empathy map helps to bring out. Now, what is the gain? Why do people, in spite of having all these problems with their MacBook, why do a MacBook user still keep buying so many Intel MacBooks? Actually, one of the biggest reasons is because if you don't have an Intel MacBook, you cannot, you know, work with other people who have Intel MacBook, because some of the softwares are only exclusive to MacBooks. That is one of the modes, exclusivity. So, and if you want to develop apps for iOS, and iOS was a huge segment and it is still a huge segment. So there are so many app developers for iOS. If you want to develop apps for iOS, you need a MacBook. That is like the ticket to their kingdom. So in spite of all these problems, people are still sticking with the brand. This is another, USP, whether your offering is able to retain its users even when one product is having subpar offerings, subpar results, subpar satisfaction. Because of another product, people are willing to go for both of them. Because of the iPhone, people are willing to continue with their MacBooks in many cases. So this is one of the gains, that for the advantage of getting access to the ecosystem, people still keep coming in. What is the pains? The pains is that the price for the entry level MacBooks is also very high, and the heat and the entire Intel CPUs were not able to, offer a experience like the ARM ones in the phone. So this is a value proposition canvas. It was introduced, and credits are written here by Steve Blank, Clayton Christensen, Seth Godin, Alex Osterwalder, and all these other names are there. This is their way of visualizing the value proposition. Now, in the case of, so you should go through, read this: benefits, features, experience, customers, what they want, fear, and need, and what are the substitutes out there, and what are the ideal customers for an offering, or for the product, what is the name of the product, and all. You need to fill in this sheet. You need to have people write this down when you're doing the workshop with their with the industry folks. When your students are doing the workshop, then a value proposition canvas is a very good way to understand your offering also, and how it matches to the product, and who else is making an attempt to match to your customers needs. Now I have made a canvas myself. I will show it. So some of the things from the empathy map will be coming, and they will be repeated in the customer model, in the value proposition model. So what a Apple customer wants, based on the advantages of a iPhone, can the similar kind of weight reduction be seen in the MacBook? Can the battery of a MacBook be as longer lasting as an iPhone? And can we have it be as quiet as an iPhone? And in many cases, an iPhone can do a lot of iPad can do a lot of video editing and a lot of email and all these things. It is much faster. Can we have all these advantages? Then what are the fears? So fear of any battery based system is that before your work is saved, the battery is gone. So for example, a lot of neural networks are being trained nowadays, and these neural network trainings take 60 minutes, 120 minutes, depending on the number of iterations you are training your model. These kind of heavy compute jobs are done by developers who are using a MacBook. Similarly, a lot of video production work happens on MacBook. A lot of video producers buy a MacBook. So you have put so many filters, so many effects on your video, and that video is not saved fully. I mean, the project file. Then all those other things that you were doing for the last 1 hour, you might lose them. So one of the reasons why people go for a laptop in the first case is for having the power backup, for being able to work in the field. So the fear is of losing the work which you were working on for the last whatever number of minutes, hours you were doing it. And another thing is, for a lot of people, a lot of males in particular, this is the point, that if they continuously work with a laptop on the lap, then the continuous heating will reduce the, this has been found also in a lot of surveys, that it will reduce the count. This is one of the fears. So reducing the heat has many advantages. What are the needs? So needs is that whatever you offer, the one big difference between the ARM architecture and Intel architecture, when Windows tried to have the same Windows on both architectures, was cross compatibility. Okay, when something is working on a different computer architecture, it needs to respect the limitations of that architecture. And so Intel and ARM, there was a difference of 32 bits. Only in 2011, ARM had started that 32-bit, 64-bit architecture. So now, even though there is 64-bit instruction set available on both architectures, there was still a lot of difference that needed to be addressed for the cross compatibility. That is one of the reasons why Windows was not able to take the users to the mobile platform, because the developers were not able to satisfy the needs of the architecture, of the ARM architecture. And the ARM architecture that Windows had first tried was very underpowered. So you need to have computing capacity in the architecture also to support the hardware, to support the software. Otherwise, it will not be able to perfectly run. It will have laggy performance. There will be some data that is not saved properly. Some garbled text will appear. All these issues can happen whenever there is a architectural difference. So these are some of the needs, because if there is no cross compatibility, if the very reason why people are on MacBook, the special Mac apps, if they are lost when you try to change the architecture, or when you try to, replace the Intel chips, then the switchover cost for the user will be too high. They will not come on board the new architecture. So then the product and what is the current substitute? So for a MacBook, even if it is an Intel MacBook, for a MacBook, a substitute is an older MacBook. Windows is nowhere in the comparison only. This is the kind of advantage that Apple has created. So yeah, so our substitute is older MacBooks in most cases. So now, what is the what is the experience that you are trying to offer to ARM chip using iPhone, using MacBook Apple customer? So if you want to make sure that the seamless integration continues, then you have to ensure that the existing iOS or existing Mac OS is run on the new architecture, whatever it may be, instead of Intel if you are trying to replace it. And you cannot take away something to give something. You have to ensure that everything that is great about you is still ported over. So the trackpad, industry leading trackpad of Mac OS, not till date no competitor is able to manage to match the actual ergonomic advantages of the trackpad. Just the trackpad, there is a huge fan following for just the trackpad of a MacBook, and that cannot be lost. So the new architecture has to match up to these high expectations that the company has set. And the benefits, so some of the reasons why people are willing to pay the huge Apple tax, the huge premium on Apple devices, is because later on Apple is not going to give you an update that will break your computer. More than likely, your telemetry data, your way of using the iOS is not going to be reported back to Apple, because there is a lot of privacy available in the Apple system. And the product category of ultrabooks was started by Apple. The MacBook Air lineup, first, it is the first successful product to be in the ultra thin category, and then all the Windows lookalike started coming. So the benefits of having lower weight still needs to be there. You cannot have a replacing architecture that will increase the overall bulkiness of the system. So you need to give that benefit of having thin and light. And it has to maintain the Apple's exclusivity. So whatever architecture they put in place, it's got to be an architecture that is not readily replaceable in the market. And at the same time, these are some of the features that they have to aim to achieve, because if they're trying to replace the Intel Macs, then they need to have something which is going to have a beyond Intel MacBook, computing per watt. Computing per watt is a common denominator for evaluating whether a chip is able to do the job in the least amount of watts consumed. And that is where they have to focus also. This has to be a feature there. And if you want new users, if you want people to stop buying an old MacBook, then you need to make sure that the cost difference between a new MacBook and an old MacBook has to be a little bit more reasonable. So all these requirements. And when you start talking about customers, then all your existing developers, film and music producers, they need to be there, and you need to have the existing community satisfied. So apps like Final Cut Pro and all the other music sound workstations and Xcode developers, they need to be satisfied right from the get-go, from the first iteration itself. It has to work. So all these criteria it has satisfied with the latest custom designed Apple chip A14 architecture, and it is in some sense historical, because there is no such advantage or no such company in the history of laptops so far to have achieved such a kind of performance. This is the architecture that they have come up with. This is their A14 chip, and all the things that I told you, they have incorporated it, which is why they are selling this untested architecture like crazy. I mean, never before would somebody buy an untested architecture with such large volumes, but they have managed to do that. They have managed to take all the users' requirements and then custom design their own chips, their own integrated circuits, so that they are able to, have these kind of advantages. So it's basically a laptop with the same thermal footprint as an iPad. It is unthinkable. So you can actually do video editing faster than an Intel desktop on a new MacBook M1, which was unthinkable before. Just unthinkable. And this is another picture of one of the unique things that they have done that nobody else in the industry is able to do. Their integrated system on package is having the RAM also inside the same complex as the integrated circuit. So the latency, which means the time it takes for data to be read from the RAM to the CPU. RAM is like the short-term memory. So whatever is in your short-term memory will get acted upon faster or sooner or before your long-term memory. So that is one of the advantages that they have managed to do. That is, they have managed to get the data read much faster in a way that nobody using an Intel Mac can copy, because nobody using an Intel laptop or Mac, because in any Intel system the RAM is separate, the RAM is far away, but that is not the case now with Intel MacBooks. It is another uniqueness that is baked into the offering itself. So we have seen all the good things they have done in the new product launch, but the question is, why did it take like such a long time? Because they were taking total advantage of the concept of MVP. You have to go back and think that, okay, what was the MVP like? Now MVP is not you make wheels first, then you make the powertrain, and then you make a small truck, and then you make a mini big truck. And MVP is all about, you have to start with cycles, like literally just a cycle, then maybe a motorcycle, then you may have a two-wheeler, like a bicycle. So these are all the bicycle iterations of Honda. Many of these bicycles came before the first four-wheeler from Honda had come. And then you may think of increasing the towing capacity or the engine capacity of your car so that it can become a truck. This is one of the key things you need to keep in mind, that your MVP will never look sexy or beautiful or appealing from the first day. And it is the same with iPhones also. So in the case of iPhones, the first iPhone, which came in 2007, was quite literally a small toy phone with a 3-inch screen. And after so many iterations of making custom chips, custom hardware, then they decided to go for incorporating a similar custom chip inside their laptop. So all the iPhones were the MVP for the current generation of a MacBook. It is not that Apple is successful in 2020 in breaking the historical computing record for performance per watt. No, no, no. They have been putting the foundation for this 1 decade back, or more than a decade, 13 years now, 13 and a half years back. So from then, from 2007 till now, is the journey for creating custom chips, which will give it a unique advantage that nobody else can replicate. So when you are creating your first offering, you have to expect it to look ugly. And still you need to find that loyal fan base which will buy your ugly offering, because it is giving them relief in something that nobody else was giving. So let's see how Ford was doing studies of how people reacted to how a driverless car is operating on the road. So this is a driverless car. the first driverless car. It is not driverless at all. It is a car where the driver is hidden as a seat. This is the kind of things that companies do in order to understand the response of the passerbys, whether they are able to digest a scene where where a car is running without a driver. This is one of the first MVP exercises that Ford has done to understand what is the actual adaptability of an AI driven car on the street. Will people tolerate it? Will it be able to move around? Will people try to do mischief in the road because of the driverless car and whatnot? Will people try to take the car away? And similarly, Amazon had done an experiment. So if you are going to create a automated answering robot, and if the automated answering robot like Alexa doesn't even have any clue what the user will ask it, then how can you prepare the database of readily available answers? Because you are not making one Alexa, you are offering Alexa across millions of homes. So it means given time, millions of queries will be there. And not all of them will be unique, but still there could be tens of thousands of unique queries based on the daily conditions. So how to even understand how to go about addressing the creation of a database? So first thing is you need to understand that who will tell you what users will ask, the user themselves. So you put first the user, give the users an Alexa, which is not an Alexa. It is basically a transmitter. It will transmit the questions of the user to the data center. And then somebody in the data center or somebody in a nearby vicinity to the transmitting device is going to listen to the user and answer the question. That is how the first entire question bank of what answers to keep on the fly was developed. And then variations were seen on day-to-day basis. How many percentage of users are asking for weather? How many percentage of users are asking for a particular food recipe? And then that information was made readily available to the Alexa robot, to the Alexa text-to-speech engine. Hello, request to the organizers. Can you tell me if there was any drop in the voice? Hello.
No, sir, it is clear.
Okay, okay. Am I going fast? Do I need to go slow?
It is quite good, sir.
Okay. So this is an example of how the initial experiments are. They are never very beautiful. Now, from this MVP example, I want to briefly talk about one of our Indian case studies. One of the usage of design thinking done by a very inspiring Indian entrepreneur, which is our Mariko sir, which is our Harsh Mariwala sir. This is his company, and in '74 uh, everybody, the entire industry was selling oil in tin cans. Why? Because if you are going to stack cans on top of each other, then the lowest can needs to be able to support the weight of the tallest can in the distribution. And when the trucks are going and when the Indian roads are going to juggle everything, not only does it have to bear the weight, but it has to have some kind of resistance to all the vibration that are the roads will give it. So that is why tin was the preferred mode of transferring the oil in the 70s. What happens is the tin can, once it is in the hands of the Raddiwala who is taking the can from the house, he will either give it to a tin recycler, but tin recycler will not pay as much as a counterfeiter, a copycat. So a lot of tin cans with parachute label were in the market without parachute oil. So then customers will give negative feedback because the copycat cannot match the quality of the brand. So usually what happens is some people will be dissatisfied with the diluted offerings of the copycat. And this is why Mariko sir, Harsh Mariwala sir and his team had seen that a lot of parachute users were losing its customers because of the increasing amount of tin can copycats, counterfeits. And also the cost of tin per unit of oil sold was a huge, it was a huge thing even then. Producing tin it would require import of the materials or the alloys required to make the tin, strong also and malleable also. So the whole production of tin cans was an additional expense, and this expense is going to be transferred to whom? The customer. So now the customer in the rural and two-tier cities would always look for local loose oil. Better to bring your own can instead of paying the premium of can to a company, and then better to take the loose oil in your own cans, in your own dabbas of steel. So how to address this question? So then what they did is in the 1980s, and this is all on their website, but I'm talking about the way they went about in eliminating the source of counterfeiting, or the opportunity of counterfeiters only was taken away by introducing these new attractive plastic bottles. These plastic bottles, not only are they attractive, not only are they appealing to the store, where the in the eyes of the potential buyer, they see cans, and then they see this different looking plastic thing. What is this? It generates curiosity, interest, and the most biggest advantage of these plastic things is that the chance of counterfeiting this using a used plastic bottle will never have that kind of appearance after the oil has been refilled by a counterfeiter. All these plastic aspects you see here, all these things, this gives the end user confidence that this is a fresh bottle, this is not a used bottle. But in the case of tin cans, it was very hard to understand which is fresh and which is counterfeit. So this is a huge advantage that plastic has given. And in addition to plastic bottles, the weight of a plastic bottle is less, and you are able to stack more bottles in the same area. So you are able to actually reduce the fuel cost of transferring these plastic bottles to the destination. And since the cost is also less, then in the two-tier cities there was a sharp pickup of users of plastic bottles, because everybody is offering tin at a certain price. You are offering much below that price, naturally there will be a interest for people to go and get the plastic bottles. So these are some of the ways in which Marico was able to increase its presence in the rural market, and have so many advantages just by eliminating the thing itself which the counterfeiters were taking advantage of, which is the tin can. And this was a very bold move in the 1970s and 80s, because that time there was not much conversation about design thinking in the country. But then that is what entrepreneurs are required to do. They are required to do the out of box thing, the thing that nobody else had thought of. And it's a great example from our own country, so I have incorporated it here, where you can even create a huge impact in your bottom line and prevent counterfeiters by changing the design of the packaging in which it is sold. And till this date, there is a dedicated institute from in Marico company, which is focused only on packaging. Okay, so I think I have covered what I had to say. I am open to questions. And I would actually require or request the users to put their comments and questions in the form of a sticky note. Now, how to put a sticky note on this Miro software? It is very simple. Just press your N button in the keyboard, and you will be able to choose the color of your sticky note. Then you take your note here and you can pose your question. So let's say you have a question of, I don't know, you decide your question and you put it. Okay, that would be a very interactive exercise. I am going to minimize the, or at least get the screen to incorporate a maximum number of elements so that I can see your question if you put it here. Or alternatively, you can put it in the Zoom chat box, and I will copy your question and see if it can be put here. But I would request users to directly use the whiteboard, because this is the place where you will get inputs from your industry participants directly from the as they say, directly from the user's mouth over here. So my talk is over now, and let's see what the users are using the Miro whiteboard for. or if you have any questions. So S. Sripati sir has put a question, and can you elaborate what you mean? Did not use any star to publish their products. Ah, you mean any celebrity? Right, right, right. That's actually a good question. So I'll take you back to the moat. Okay, in the moat, let's answer this question like this: who needs a star more? Okay, and I'm going to put the sticky note. Okay, new note. Who needs celebs? And I will put another note. Okay, let's see. Traditionally, so far, companies in which fashion was involved were using celebrities. Okay, like shoe companies. Okay, like I said, the example of Michael Jordan and his entire lineup. So this is one example. Okay, fashion companies need celebs, but Apple is not a fashionable product to begin with. Apple is a need-based product. Who needs Apple? You should ask the question. So that we have addressed in the value proposition canvas. Who needs product of Apple? Uh, is it just anybody who wants to make a fashion statement? No. Who needs Apple's product is developers who want to access to Apple's ecosystem, film and music producers who want access to Apple's unique applications, Apple only unique applications like Final Cut Pro and other music audio workstations that are mostly best to run on Apple ecosystem. So Apple didn't answer the question of how to be fashionable. No, no, no. Apple has answered which question? How to serve this particular target users. That is what Apple has answered for. What does a developer need, and can I offer that? So let's see. A developer needs what? A developer doesn't want to keep dealing with updates from OS vendor. Apple will only ask you to update or not at the end of your work cycle. It will not impose its work updates on you as much as Windows will. And in spite of taking an update from Apple, your computer is not likely to have any kind of major issues unless it is a major version update. Okay, within the same version, from one Catalina to another Catalina, there is rarely any issue. Or one High Sierra to another High Sierra model update, there is rarely any issue. Only when you are updating from one huge update, like when from Windows 7 to Windows 8 is a huge update. So many cases, so many Windows laptops never are able to deal with the update of Windows 7 to Windows 10 because they are so underpowered. Okay, you have to change a device. But till date, there are so many 2012, 2013 models of MacBook which are able to run the Catalina update. So what I'm talking about is developer needs the OS to not give a lot of pain when it comes to updates. Secondly, what does a developer need? Second thing is what a developer needs is he doesn't want to deal with continuous threats from continuous threats from hackers. There is more threats in the Windows ecosystem. Uh, what happened to it? Anyway, so there are more threats for Windows users than there are for Apple users. There is some issue in this whiteboard. Anyway, so what happens is it will try to go to the top of the stack. Okay. So anyway, these are some quirks that you have to deal with in any new system. This Miro system is somewhat new for me also. So keep in mind that if it is inside this kind of a outline, then it will go back to the grid. Anyway, so threat from hackers is very large inside a Windows system because Windows community is large. So hackers will target whichever is the softer target, which is the Windows community, because a lot of Windows community users are not even paying for Windows. They're getting a hacked version, which is easier to compromise, and getting a hacked version of macOS itself is a headache. Who is going to give you the macOS hack? Only macOS store will give. To whom a macOS store, Play Store or App Store will give the next update? To a MacBook. There is no way to download the update in Windows directly from a MacBook store. There will be some third party, which is not the official source, and that third party can compromise the macOS. But Apple itself will only give it to another MacBook. And in many cases, if the device is not able to run the OS, it will not even give the update. So that's what a developer needs. Anyway, so these are some of the unique quirks of a developer which MacBook is satisfying. Similarly, there are some unique quirks of film and music producers which the Final Cut Pro software is satisfying, and this software has been tuned to take maximum advantage of whichever IC it is running on. Earlier in Intel ICs it used to run, and it used to run better than an AMD could ever run it. Okay, yeah, initially AMD was never optimized for Mac OSs to begin with, right? So there are some Intel only features, some hardware features which accelerate the use of Final Cut Pro, and this is one advantage for a film producer. So in this way, uh, as long as you answer the needs of your community, you don't need a celebrity. Okay, any other question? There is the chat. All touch. How to validate our idea before going for prototype or production? See, that is why I've given an example of Ford Motor over here. You have to validate your idea using some creativity. Okay, you have to do some trees thinking and brainstorming, and you have to make sure that before the product is out, just create a wireframe if it is a software product. Okay, just create a 3D printed model if it is a hardware product, and see how people are interacting with the prototype before going to production. So if your question is, if you don't even want to prototype, how to validate the idea, then there is no answer. You have to at least spend some money on a basic prototype. So this is, you should remember this model, man dressed as a seat. Can it get more childish or amateurish or even cost savings? And the other example is the example of the Amazon Echo, that a person is answering the question through Alexa. Any other question? So has anybody typed any comments or any sticky notes on the whiteboard? I would like to see initial user acceptance here. How many people are able to accept the whiteboard? I don't see anything in the chat. Okay.
Sir, most of the users are logged on the mobile, so they cannot use
That is
both.
okay. This is
They cannot
they
use
can
both
use,
the.
sir. This is a
Sir, they cannot use.
they can Zoom can run in the background in mobile.
Okay,
They
sir.
can listen to the talk, and they can see the presentation in Miro, because Miro will run in the Chrome. It is completely runnable in any web browser.
Okay, sir. Yeah, sir.
Uh,
Anybody have any question?
but it's okay. Yeah.
Angel investor put money on MVP. There's a question from
It is a comment.
comments.
Some angel investors will help you to develop your prototype also. You have to see whether the angel investor is inside your business vertical or inside your domain. A biochem or a bio product angel investor will not help you to prototype a farm tractor. So you have to be specific whether the fund house where you're going to raise money has people who understand the business. Then they may or may not go with your idea. Usually nowadays, not many investors are going for idea stage, but there are some, and we can help you connect with them if you have need of that.
Okay, anybody else have questions? Okay, so we'll end the session here.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you for giving your valuable insights on the topic application of design thinking in digital classroom. We hope for to have many more sessions from you, sir. I thank once again from the behalf of PD Engineering College for a very
And
interesting session.
thank you to you also, Vidyadhar sir, for coordinating all these sessions, and for the college also for letting me make my own two words here. Thank you very much to the entire panel for organizing the FDP, and to all the other speakers also to take their time and come here. Yeah,
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. Dear
thank you.
participants, our next session will begin at 12 o'clock. We'll take a short break. We'll rejoin again at 12 o'clock.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.